Hey everyone, welcome back to another website audit. If you're new here, my name's Jess. I have been a web designer for 13 years, and each week I go live and audit someone's website. Now, they have volunteered for this. I am not just picking on someone random on the internet. I'm not picking on anyone anyway, but just wanted to, clarify that they have volunteered for this. So today we are looking at Leah's website, Coastal Studio. So let's dive in. If you have questions while you're watching, feel free to leave it in the comments. So this is the top of the homepage. This is what you see when you first come to Leah's website. The first thing that I notice is that nothing is really standing out to me. Now, I do see what I assume is maybe some of her surface design, the illustration on the doors of this cabinet, I'm assuming. um, and it does feel very calm and artsy, and uh, so I like the picture, but the logo blends into the background. I can't see the blue wave really of her logo, and then the navigation links also tend to blend in. And so this is a case where I would recommend that you just have a clear white bar behind the navigation. Squarespace has the option to just have a solid color background. If you want to use another color, it doesn't have to be white, but I think having some background color instead of the image bleeding behind all of these elements will make it easier to see these things. Um, so that's the first thing. And then I do think that this heading text, add a little vacation to every day, one could, well, actually, a few things. One could be a little bit bigger, and I think could use some white behind it so it stands out and pops against that background image. It's not often you hear a designer willingly use the word pop in design, but like I said, it's not really standing out. And then I would also, from an SEO perspective, I think this wording could use a little change, because add a little vacation every day, I'm like, are we putting like a tiki hut in my backyard so I feel like I'm at the beach? Are we, am I adding some kind of scent to my home to make it smell like the beach? Like, what am I exactly doing? So I think it could be a little bit clear what exactly you do and what you offer. And then lastly, this is a very artistic brand. She's a surface designer, which, if you don't know what that means, it means she designs like patterns that can be applied to surfaces in your home. And so it feels, it's very artsy. It's also a coastal theme. That's everything. All of her work and her brand is along that theme. This font does not feel coastal. This feels just kind of generic, everyday. Like, I'm pretty sure it's the Poppins font, which is not a bad font, to be clear. It's not a bad font, but it doesn't, to me, fit the brand. So not to say that you have to use the Coastal Studio font for all of your headings, but I think we could use something a little bit more fun, lighthearted, maybe something a little more rounded in your fonts so that it matches your logo and really makes the entire website feel more fun, coastal, artistic. So that would be one of my recommendations. I do like that you have a little bit of design elements, some like, what's the word? Some texture in this next section. I like that because that really plays into the work that you do. So I think that's a really nice note there. Um, so I like that. And then we have a little like introduction. I think this could be a little bit clear, less about you, more about like, why should I want to do this? Like, who is this for? It kind of seems like you work with brands, but you can also, people themselves can shop. I would either split this in two. So you have a section where you're like, I license my work, you can have it in your shop or, whatever, and have that information. And then have a second section where you're like, I also make my artwork available to people who want to purchase it and put it in their home if you're not like a shop owner. So I would split that up, make it less about you, make it more about the work. Um, and then have more images of your work here so that we can see that and we're drawn in. So we see it down here because we have your Instagram, but I want to see it like up here with maybe some professional images. I'm something kind of like this where I can see it being used in a home or, like in a shop or whatever. Um, I would do that instead of these graphics that you've made with like the paint marks and then the font on top. Um, that's what I would do. I would switch that around. I don't love having Instagram feeds on homepages because we're making people leave your site immediately. So I typically like to use this on your about page instead of your homepage. So that I would move this over there. And then just a small note, your footer is very tall. So in Squarespace, you can adjust the sizing of sections. And so I would just adjust that so it's a little bit smaller. Not that it's like a horrible thing. It's just there's a lot of blank space down here, and so I would just shorten that a little bit. So let's hop over to the first thing, which is studio notes. So we have a few blog posts, but it looks like these are not updated very frequently. So one, I would either remove the dates. If you want to get back into blogging, keep this up in the navigation menu. Even if you're like, it doesn't mean you have to blog every week, but if you're like, I do want it to start getting back into blogging, keep this here. You can hide the dates so it doesn't look like, oh, they haven't blogged in a while. Or if you don't want to blog, if you're like, I don't have capacity for that, I don't really think I want to, that's totally fine. Just remove studio notes. Um, that's totally fine. You could keep it up here if you really wanted, but these, especially with the dates, I would at least remove those. Collaborate. Let's work together. So this is where we have more information about licensing, collaboration, fully custom work. I think this could be explained more because I'm like, what can you design for me? Like can you design a pillow for my home? Or is this just for brands? Like there's a lot of questions. Like I'm not entirely sure what this all means. I also think from an SEO perspective, this is another case where you could potentially separate this out into two different pages if you want to talk specifically to brands about licensing and that kind of thing versus like working with an individual and working on that because you could, I think there would be SEO potential there about surface pattern design, like licensing and some SEO keywords and being more specific instead of just let's work together and here's like 6 ways you can do this, breaking that up, being more specific and separating out based on the audience. So like this picture right here, I love this. I think this could go on the homepage. If you have more photos like this, I would add more of these to your site. But I think right now, the main note for this page is a lot more specifics of how people can do this, who this is for, examples. If you have like, oh, I have a shop in Missouri that they're I don't know if people in Missouri want a coastal theme, but I have a shop in such and such, and they do X, Y, and Z. If you can get any photos from those shops, like even if they're not super professional, even if the shop owner can just send you a photo, I think more context here would be good. And again, just help with that SEO. And then lastly, we have the about page. Pretty short and sweet. We have a picture of you. I love the patterns. Like, I love how you're incorporating your artwork into, well, I'm assuming this is your artwork. I'm just assuming into the website. Like, that's very fun. I think you could do this more if you add more text as well. If we break up the text more, I could really see a lot of fun ways to use that more. And I think it would be really fun and just a really artistic website without being too overwhelming. So Uh, the other thing I noticed here is also, it looks like this font size is bigger than this one. And so just from a consistency standpoint, I would make this the same font size. I'm gonna guess that you did this just so the font like filled up this space compared to the photos next to it. I get it. It's not the worst thing, like, ever to have a slightly different font size, but just, we wanna be consistent on our website, so I would do that. Also, I didn't know you live in the suburbs of Atlanta. Like, I know Leah's name, I recognize her brand name, we're connected on Instagram. I had no idea she lived in the suburbs of Atlanta like me, so that's a fun side note. So yeah, I think this is a good idea. So far, I think uh, we have a good start here. I just want to check also. Oh, none of these work. So you might want to fix those. I was going to make sure they open in a new window. But I do know they were back over here. But that link, okay, so you might want to check our links and that kind of thing, but that's something else. Licensing. Oh, so here's more information about licensing. Why is this page hidden, Leah? Leah, this needs to be public. You need to make this more more visible. Or just combine this information. Like I said, if we split this collaborate page up into two, and then you could put this information on like the brand licensing page and then have the other page for like consumers and individuals. So that's what I would recommend. And then lastly, I've talked about a few little SEO things, but I'm seeing in the tab for your website that there's nothing about like surface pattern designer. So we definitely need to also work on the SEO for your page titles and that kind of thing. So yes, SEO applies to what's on the page, but we also want to work on the back end. So in Squarespace, under page settings, there on each page, there's also an SEO settings tab within that, and you can customize each page title to have keywords. And you can also in the site settings, that's where you set it for the home page. So right now, just as Coastal Studio, I would want you to add in a little like surface pattern designer or something, whatever the keyword research shows would be most beneficial. So overall, a very simple site, a very good start. Just a few tweaks here and there, I think could really like bring this site a little more life and make it a little bit more visually interesting and easier to read. So that's all for today's website audit. If you're watching and you want your website to be audited, you can leave your link down in the comments below, and I will add you to the list. But thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see y'all next week.